So why didn't you go to the celebration? Just the story of why you couldn't go.
Well,
Not an accusation.
no, I know. I, well, it's embarrassing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we won't
Just
ask you about
pregnant,
that.
and I've been having some problems, and we had gone down to Charlotte and driven all this way, and it caused some problems. So we
Oh.
didn't think that flying and getting really tired, the doctor said I should rest and put my feet up and all that stuff. And besides that, the morning that the thing started, I got horribly sick with the flu. So I couldn't have gone anyway. But I wished I could have gone, and I really encouraged Steve to go in my place so that we would be represented.
Do you think he was excited about going?
Yes.
Why would he, like, get interested in our ranch?
Well, I mean, first of all, he was interested to just see. He always thought he'd like to be a rancher or a farmer or something. So he wanted to see what it was like, you know, to have a roundup. But he's interested in the family because his family is kind of spread out, and he doesn't know them, you know, I mean, as far as his extended family all that well. So he's kind of adopted ours. That's what's unusual about our family. I mean, we know each other. It really is not that usual that the people keep track of all their second and third cousins, and, you know.
Well, we don't have any first cousins, really.
That's right.
So, when you were growing up, were you aware of the ranch? What are your first memories of going to the ranch?
Oh, well, we didn't go very often. I mean, at least for me. We went up to Anders to the cabin, and then all, you know, Bud and Mary and Babette and their children were there. So I knew Anders, and they, you know, we were always saying we were going to Imperial. But as far as I remember, there was only a few times that we went actually to the ranch. When I was little, when I got older, we always took Grandma over there to see Mary and Bud. But I only remember being in that old house once. And Babette, they had just had Lori. And she was just a little baby. And I remember sitting in the old house, and then we went over to that new house where they lived. But that's the only real time I remember actually being there. But I heard a lot about it, and I felt like I knew it really well just because of what I'd heard.
So you remember Grandma telling stories about being a little girl on the ranch? What about toys? Did you have any toys that she might have had when... Let me just check this. Yeah. When she was... See, that's the only thing is I only change the shot a little bit. There we go.
And more in the center.
Yeah. Or it just changed a little bit.
Oh, toys and things. Well, yeah, she told me stories by the hour of when she was little and what it was like and how they played and the horses and lying out with the cows. And she had a little tea set that they had and this little old stove. It's a little doll stove. That it's like a replica of a cook stove that I played with a lot. And a little doll, a little sock. It's like a sock, but it's a doll. And some things like that. I remember all that. And how they would, you know, they didn't have lights. And I mean, I got really fascinated with life, what life must have been like there, so far from anybody, and just the loneliness. And she would say, you know, when company came by, it was a big deal. And going to the store was just, you know, once every so often. And I don't know, I can't imagine knowing the weather out there and where we live now. I mean, thinking that you're just toughing it out here. I mean, what it must have really been like there when they got snowed in and had blizzards and, you know.
There wasn't any colonel with a tractor to...
No, that's right. There was nobody to come. And I think if I were a young mother or just being out there alone, and you must think you're going to die. I mean, that you're going to, or that you would be so cold and they didn't have any heat. I mean, we have a hard time with our wood stove feeling that we're warm enough at night, or you wake up in the morning, you're frozen. I mean, that must have been, they just got used to doing that and getting up and getting it warm. And Grandma always said her father was really cheerful, and he'd be whistling away, up at 4 in the morning and taking care of all those animals and not having that, it's really fascinating. I've read a lot of books about the pioneer life and the pioneer spirit and what must have made people stick with it and not go back. It just builds a character that, because we've done it a tiny bit here. I mean, we don't have a dishwasher, so that seems like we're really, or a microwave, and we heat with wood, though we've had to put in heat just because, we have all the pipes and stuff, and if you go away, you're afraid that he's going to freeze your pipes and things. But you get a little worried if the wood gets low, or you feel like you're really cold or something. But it's nothing like. But I always loved. She would just tell these stories, and I loved to listen to them. And I knew most of the people. I mean, I did meet most of the family as a child, because I knew Harold. A couple of times I met Harold. And Vera we saw quite often, and her daughter, Marianne, and then Marianne had a daughter who was my age. I can't remember her name right now, but we were friendly. And Adrian, and then of course Dorothy and Mary, Bud and Mary, and Babette and Susie. And Dolly and Jeff and Lori, I know. Well.
So,
it's fun now to own a little part of it, because I really treasure that, and I'll always keep it, just because it gives you a sense of where you came from, and that's really, the older you get, I think, it's really important. And just having Sarah now, I want her to know all that stuff. And I don't remember as much as I'd like to, so it's nice to have Grandma on the tape and other people that you have this written down, because it becomes rare to really, people move all over the place, and you get further and further away from your family, and it's interesting to go back to a piece of land or a building and say, well, this is it. I mean, this is what was there originally.
Well, we'll have something about the store there too. And what do you remember about the store? Was that like a special place to you and Papa?
Oh yeah, it was like our store, and it was a very, sort of sacred place. I mean, you went in the store, you behaved a certain way. And I just remember the only time Papa ever spanked me, it was just awful. And I was having a temper tantrum or something, and he reached down and swatted me. I mean, I cried like I'd been beat to a pulp. It was just the fact that, but he, it was they usually let me, I'd go back in the back room. They had a big table, and they had all the jeans in there. And I could lie on the table and read my comic books or whatever. Nobody bothered me much. But if you went out and there were customers out there, But I always loved being down there. I'd go help, or they had these little bags around a thing, and I could bag up the things people bought, or sometimes he'd let me punch the cash register. And I always liked that. I was never there when they decorated it much. They did for Christmas and stuff. And they had a mirror in there that had 3 ways, and I loved that.
Do you think it was important to have that as a place to go to because we didn't have a permanent?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think so. I mean, I feel like I can say I'm from this town, Whereas if we just started out somewhere and then moved around, I don't know what you'd say. I guess you'd just say, well, I'm from the Army bases. But, if somebody said, well, I feel like I have a hometown, and I feel like I know the little hometown church, the hometown store, the hometown swimming pool, my friends that I had, and And it was just a real comfortable, secure, there wasn't a lot to do. We'd just go out and ride. And, I mean, the same night you'd ride in the same place every night, and everybody would be talking about this family and that house. They'd know all the history of the families and all the names of the people and all the... Then we'd just do this, we'd get a hot dog, get the Dairy King. But that's a wonderful sort of pattern to have as a child. So I love that. It gives you a real security. And I hope I can do that for Sarah here, but it's not as easy because we don't really live in a small town. I mean, it's different. You have to drive them everywhere. And I mean, there you could just you walk down to the church, you walk down to the swimming pool,
And it's still like that.
Yeah, I know. It's the same old swimming pool. The same everything, the same dirt on the ground. It's just amazing. And I think a lot of people don't get that chance either, because you go back and there's a big skyscraper built, or these buildings are torn down. Well, nothing in St. Francis has changed at all except, a little bit. But
Stop and Shop.
Some of the things are gone, like the movie theater and the band shell and stuff. They just kind of look like they're deserted, which is kind of sad, but they're still there.
They're using the band shell. The trees being gone makes that part.
Yeah, I know.
Well, so when you were living in Charlotte and all, you were still aware of that and all through in Washington?
Oh, yeah.
Always.
Well, I've always gone back. I mean, I've never gone a year without going back.
Did you ever consider wanting to live out there?
Oh, yeah, I have. And I still think, well, if something happened and, I don't know what would happen, but but I've always wanted to go. But it's hard, I married Steve, and he has a job here, and there's just not a whole lot of, you can't make him go. Though he would have been, if I'd met him a lot earlier, he would have made a good farmer. He would have liked that life, I think. I mean, he thinks he would have, I don't know. I don't know.
He seems to like the physical stuff, for not having aversion to.
And he's a good manager, and he likes that. So I don't know, but that's not what happened. So, and I suppose, as it seems like everybody's disappearing there, and Ruth, and your good friends that you used to always go see. So now you wonder who you visit even, or who was going to remember your family after a while. They won't. But, I think I could live there really easily, especially now I have a child, because I think there's a lot to be said for small town life. I think it gives a child a lot of confidence that they get in the city and all this competition and everything, They feel defeated before they start.
I just loved it up until I was about 12, and then I started not liking it. But up until then, it was like we could run anywhere, and it was like we owned the town.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. It was just but then I was into my friends back home.